Hey guys, this is Fraxis here to show you how to do some basic modding on Prison Architect. This is for Alpha 24, so some things may be out of date, but I'm only showing you the basics, so hopefully it'll stay the same. The first thing to start with is how to download a mod, and you'd want to get this mostly through the workshop. So the original is Gary's Amazing Vegetable Patch. That's the developers made that themselves. So we're going to just go into that. And all you need to do is hit subscribe. I'm already subscribed, so it shows that. And when you start the game, it'll be there. So we're going to start a game right now. And we just need to go into the extras. Give it a second to load. There we go. And when we go to the menu, there's extras right here. And mods. So I have a couple mods right here, and I'm going to keep the vegetable mod here on. You can turn it on and off by selecting this little button here and then hitting apply. So vending machines is what I will be basically creating again to show off how to do this. So if we go to right here, there's open mods folder, and that'll bring up the directory right on your computer, which is your username, app data, local, introversion, prison architect, mods. So, but the easiest way to get to it is basically just through the game. So this is also what holds all of your saves and campaign files and preferences and stuff, so that's good storage. You'll see first that there's a bunch of numbers, and that's basically generated by Steam when you go into the workshop. What you'll want to do is create a new folder and name it. I'm going to name this we'll just name this Tutorial 1, and inside there's nothing, of course, but we'll want to copy at least the general structure of the other mods. 307 to 79338 is the potato farm mod thing, and you can see that there's the thumbnail.png. If you name it exactly that, this is what shows up right in the game, right there. See? And you'll need a manifest.txt, which includes this information. You can copy this directly into your new folder, and we'll do that in a second. But one thing I want to mention right now, right off the bat, is you do need a space right here, this empty space. For some reason it can't get the first line, and I believe an empty space at the end is just good practice. So you'll have your own author name right here. You'll name it within the quotes under name, description. You know, this is all fairly self-explanatory. So description, the only thing to note is that if you do R and N, /R, /N, that'll basically make a new line, return a new line. Is translation, I believe, will generally be false. That's for like language mods. And file ID and update time, and Steam author, they'll all be added in for you when you make the mod on Steam Workshop. So you don't have to worry about them. If you do care for whatever reason, the update time is actually just a standard Unix time. So if you go to unixtimestamp.com, it'll show that. It's not important though, it'll already be generated by Steam Workshop. So let's just copy these files over just to have a base into tutorial 1. You know what? Just to make things easy, I'm going to use vending machines already. And to tutorial 1. There we go. So you can see I've already changed for this one. The name is vending machines. My author is Fraxis. That's main description, etc. And I, for whatever reason, just threw an update time. And I made it my own thumbnail. You can use like any typical program to like Photoshop to make the PNG, and just make sure it's named thumbnail.png. You also need a folder called data, so make sure it's lowercase and all, exactly like that. And inside of here is where all of your main information for your mod will be. One of the things you'll need for sure is sprites.png. You can ignore the PSD, that's for my own, for editing in Photoshop. That's not actually going to show up later. Well, I'll remove it later. But for now, let's actually open that. So sprites is basically everything that'll show up in your game that you'll be adding. And for now, for Alpha 24, you have to basically include this whole area if you want it to be compatible with the original farming mod. Chris and them already explained that this will be changed later in the next update, so whatever I'm talking about probably doesn't even relate to you at this point. But for now, you want to basically put everything beyond the 320th pixel. Why 320? Because this is, as far as Prison Architect is concerned, 10 spaces across, and one space is considered 32 pixels. I'll explain to you in a minute what that means. But here I have a little snack, which is just like a bag of potato chips, sort of, horribly drawn, and I have it right here at basically at the 10th slot. And you can use guides and change this if you have Photoshop to go by pixels. That makes it a lot easier. And for view, you can put like a new guide and say 32 pixels wherever, so that you can put it and see this little blue line, and that makes it easier to line up where everything is going. So yeah, I have this snack and this box, and that's right here. So the first thing we'll want, I guess, is to add those materials. You have these different text files right here: jobs, materials, needs, production, reform programs, and research, reform underscore programs, all lowercase. Needs is not mentioned in the original mod, but that is also one of the files that can be added. These are specific. The name has to be exactly that, and the system will be looking for those files directly to find out information about like jobs and materials, etc. So again, remember the space here, and we start with the first object. You start with the term begin, and you say object. And I believe you can tab it out however you want, but good practice is to tab so that you can see that begin and end line up. So end would be the end of this object. So we have the name is a snack. Just made that: width 1, height 1, toughness 1, max tech 20, etc. You can basically just put in all this information. Now the sprite is wrong because we're going to set it to 10. Remember, it's at the 320th pixel, but 0 should still be okay. So X is how far over in your file, this far over, and then 0 is at the top for Y. So we're saying that we're starting here, and we have a width of 1 and a height of 1, so it's going to end like right here. So it encompasses that whole thing. See, W means width, and height means 1. H means 1. They're both 1. Yes. Height. Rotate type. So this basically says that it's rotated up. This is how it's normally going to start, is 0. 0 means facing back. 1 means to the left. 2 means forward. And 3 means to the right. And then 4 means it doesn't get rotated. So 4 would be used for like entities, so staff and stuff like that, or just anything that doesn't rotate. So that's the snack. That's all done. We have another object, which is drink machine, which already exists. What we're doing here is actually overwriting an existing And let me show you real quick how to get to there. If you go to Steam, go to your properties of Prison Architect, local files, browse local files, it'll bring that up. And there's a main.dat. Data will not appear there, but a main.dat. If you rename that to .rar, RAR, and extract it with WinRAR, hopefully you have WinRAR. If you don't, please go get it. So it'll extract it to a main, and then data will be there. And inside data is a bunch of information about the game. So you can look at this Lua function list for scripting. It tells you all of the folders, the functions that Lua can use, which I won't get into great detail in this because it will probably be changing soon anyway. You can see like all the needs. Here's where they explain the bladder need and its priority, everything about it. So if you want, you can actually go through and find information that already exists in the game. Like here's the rule that says ingredients should be stored at the fridge. Max slot ID 1, so it's 0 or 1. So the first or second numbers usually start with 0 in technical things. So that's some useful information about the already existing parts. And so the drink machine I basically copied from the materials.txt and replaced one thing. I believe it is only one thing. No, I removed the requirement that it has to be in a certain room, and I added in the properties of scripted, because that means that I can add a script later. So let's just go down here to equipment before I continue on to the other stuff. Snack box. This is a piece of equipment. This is something that is used when doing a job. So it'll show up, and I have to change that again to 13 and Y to 1, because if you notice, I placed it down here, right there. So we'll just save that. Oh, you also need markers. What these are basically slots. They can tell, like, basically where it attaches, when things go into it, stuff like that. So, that's materials. For jobs, you just say begin job name. I had load vending machine as a job, and it'll take I believe that's in seconds. Normally it's like 15, but I made that nice and quick. And you can say which workers go here and what tool. Remember I said the equipment, the snack box. So here's where I am defining that tool for that job. So it'll basically just show up in his hand when he's using it. So the cook, the janitor, and the prisoner can do this. They can load the vending machine. Needs. Here's where I'm establishing that a provider, which is a snack. If they eat the snack, which currently I have to say use. If you say consume, it just disappears. If you say eat, they get confused. I'm sure that'll be something that'll be changed later, and we'll have much more control on that. But that's the simple need. Production. Here's where I say to store all snack boxes and vending machines, but I'm actually not using that. I used it as equipment. Originally I had it planned that snack boxes would be imported and brought to the vending machines, and then the vending machine would essentially dispense out snacks, but for simplicity I'm not doing it that way. Reform programs. So here's a program that I made. It's very silly. It's not meant to really be part of the mod, but I just wanted to show you what it is. Here's a program that I called Munching. Cost me $100, and It lasts for a while. Only one session, one difficulty. It's very easy to complete. Theoretically, someone could fail munching, which is terrible, but they could. That's hilarious. Research, vending. It does require to have the vending research completed, which we'll show in a second. Room, common room. So that means that that's the room that it'll be placed in. And teacher is going to be the warden. So the warden is just going to gather up people and start eating snacks with them. And of course, this equipment snack. It's going to need a snack. And the intake is voluntary, and properties is repeatable. They can do it over and over and over and get really fat. And no, they can't actually get fat. Research. So here's that research I was talking about. We are naming it vending, and it allows for an ability, requires the warden research, and the administrator is the warden, so the warden is the one that will research. He's got to figure out what kind of candies and chips that he's going to want. And so this is how long it'll take. Usually things take 360. And X and Y placement is where it appears on the screen of the research tab. And simply having all of these text files in here makes it just all of these things appear in the game. It's very easy, very simple. You don't have to really know a whole lot about programming or anything. Language. You'll want to have a folder called language. This makes it easy to have multiple languages in the game. And the base tile is base-language.txt. Make sure it's not an underscore. I know Reform Programs was underscored, but base languages was not. Base language, no, not plural. So open this, and you have a couple of phrases. Basically, any object that you have, you're going to want to have the object underscore, and then what it was called. So I renamed the drink machine. So here's where I establish what it's called. Over here, drink machine. That's what's going to appear in-game. And object snack. Here we go. We have snack. And for vending, it works for research and the tooltip. So this is what it will show up in-game, and allows you to place a vending machine to feed your prisoners. That's not exactly correct, because I didn't care about placing it, but allows you to create a reform program to munch on snacks. Lol. Reform program munching. Here we go. Munching. Equipment snack box. Box of snacks. See, I didn't want to call it a snack box. I wanted to call it a box of snacks. It's a little bit more user-friendly, I guess. Tooltip. Any tooltips that you might be including, you want to call it tooltip, and then vending, and then underscore loading in this case. Needs to be stocked with snacks. So this will pop up anytime that it needs to be stocked, which we'll establish in a script. And job custom. Anytime you have a job that you want to create, it has to start with job custom underscore, and then the name of that job that you're creating. And then this is the status that the worker will show, is loading vending machine. So let me show you the scripts. This is a little bit more complicated. It's just a folder called scripts, and this is programmed with Lua. You can open this with Notepad++. That's what I prefer to use. But one thing to note is that the name of the script has to be the name of the object. That's it, just drink machine. If you remember before, we established that the drink machine had a scripted property. So that means it knows to look into scripts and look for drinkmachine.lua, and we'll open that up. So this is a very simple program. I'm not going to go into great details, but some things that you need to know are stuff like set property, and that's essentially to establish a variable, some sort of piece of data that you might need later. And if a property already exists, it will store it into that property. If it doesn't exist, it'll make it exist. So the one thing that you need to note is that function create is required. That's when the item is placed. What will it do? And in this case, I'm saying it will have 120 stock. It has snacks inside. it doesn't need to be loaded because it already starts with 120, and I have a counter, and this is for deleting things later. I'll show you. Update is the next function you'll need, and you have to include time passed. And the what this all is doing is basically saying to get the existing variables and put them into a local variable that only this function can see. If you don't know programming, that's fine. Again, you can still do a whole lot without scripting, but if you do, then this will help. So I have a Boolean variable that's just a little flag, true or false, needs loading. If it's true, then I'm going to create a job called load vending machine. And if you remember from the other text file, I had tooltip vending loading. So I can set the property of this object. What I'm setting is the tooltip, and I'm setting it not to the phrase I want, but to tooltip vending loading. So it'll output that. So if it's in another language, then that's great. Then it's easy. You don't have to have like 1,000 things referring to what it is. Return just basically means get out of here, we're done. Because if it needs to be loaded, we're not going to do anything. But assuming that's false, then we're going to just continue on. We're going to clear the tooltip out so it doesn't say anything. And if it counted after 20 seconds, then we're going to basically drop out a piece of the snack. We're going to get a snack out there. That's what object spawn means. And the reason why I'm doing this current snack is to essentially delete it. You see that I delete it right here first, then I make the snack, then I set it into a sort of storage for later. And then this will restart the timer. So if the current stock is less than 1, this is where it's more important. If it actually ran out, then it's going to set that it needs to be loaded. So at the very next frame, it's going to go ahead and do that. I like to do this beforehand, before doing all of this. So I set it up here. I could probably organize it better, but whatever. Function job complete. If you have a job, you have to start with a function called job complete, and then the name of that job right here. Load vending machine. So if something finishes that job, it'll go straight to there. And what this is saying is essentially say stock is 120, it's back up to maximum, and it doesn't need to be loaded anymore. And I set the count to 10 to make it output something. You know what, that should be 20. So, basically the mod is complete. So now we can actually look at it. However, I want to show you a little bit more information about what options you have available to you. And that can be found at this website right here, at the Introversion website, and on their wiki, Mod Schema. This shows you every kind of input that you can give and what's available to you. So for objects, there's move speed factor, when there's teleportable, things that I may not have included in some of the parts that I included. Yeah. So you can see like what sprite you can have, rooms. Here's all the information about the rooms and all the different research that's in the game, materials, etc., etc. You can basically just look through this and see everything that you need. Some things that I found that were interesting was that the teacher is just pretty much any kind of entity. So, I mean, box is listed here. I'm pretty sure that means that your program could be taught by a box. I'm not sure how it would get there. I probably have some issues with being tardy, but kind of funny. everyone's just gonna stare at a light maybe. um, so you'll have to be very specific with that. Even though it'll accept it, it might not be smart. This website can also probably be found anywhere on the forums. I mean, some people like to reference it. Which, by the way, the forums are a good idea to go to. Alright, so let's go back to the game. And we're going to load up. Well, let's make sure that our mod is actually on, or showing up in the first place. Any machines? Let's see what happened. We have tutorial 1, manifest. Oh, you see, I named it the same thing. I'm gonna have to close that out to bring it back up. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the issue here. We named it the same exact thing. Yep. And of course that was the issue. So we're gonna turn off the old one. So you can see all this information just as we had it before. We're going to hit apply, make sure that stays in there. Give it a little moment to think. And I'm going to attempt to load up one of my prisons that I had for testing. It's just a jail, really. Let's fast forward this. But basically, we can already see that I have a drink machine, and there's a snack right there. And they're sleeping right now, but I do assure you, when it comes feeding time, not even feeding time, because the whole point of this is actually to keep them from caring if it's eat time. See? He's running. He's eating. And he now no longer has to eat. So I technically don't need a kitchen. Seems a little overpowered, but whatever. So that's the basics of how to mod, how to get things into the game. And I will hopefully be going over some more complicated stuff later, but for now this will do. So, see ya. Have a good time.